Hello everybody and welcome back to Silverstone Day 2 here for what is going to be a very wet morning. As you can see now, it's time for the Britcar Prototype Cup, as you can see behind me. Oh my word, don't these look absolutely sensational. Let's have a quick walk around, shall we? We've got the number 77 car alongside. It's Charles Hall who's in this one. Over here, let's go have a quick chat. We've got Ruben Stanislas or Rodolfo Gonzalez in this car. I wonder if we can just have a quick chat and just say hello. Good morning, how are you this morning? How was qualifying yesterday in this machine?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it was probably the first few laps, decent laps I've had in this car ever. Because I hadn't raced in 8 years, so it was nice to get some dry running with no traffic, no red flags, and you know, I was just piecing things together. You know, in the end there was more time in myself, but yeah, I'm happy with the job we did.
Do you like the rain? Is the question.
No, but it is what it is, so I have to do it driving the rain.
Best of luck, thanks for talking to us, we really do appreciate it. Let's just get the camera in. I just want to have a quick look at the cockpit in there. Look how tight and snug it is. It's like a fighter pilot in there, isn't he? That's Rodolfo Gonzalez we've just spoken to, that Indianola Motorsport. Yesterday, the Britcar Prototype Cup cars, they were the first cars to do sub 2 minutes, ex-Formula 1 tester there, Rodolfo Gonzalez. Let's keep moving down a little bit. Over here, we've got the number 11. This is the University of Wolverhampton car as well. Shane Kelly, Jess Hawkins piloting that one. What's going to happen today for this race, because of the rain, we're going to have 2 green flag laps just to make sure that the track is clear, the drivers are comfortable. There is quite a bit of standing water. It's the GP circuit as well, so it's a long way round. 3.661 miles in total. Wow, there's a lot of track to cover, isn't there? As we said before, pole position time, Charles Hall, Scott Mitchell. It's Charles Hall actually in the car right now, 1:57.844. The first time we saw sub 2 minutes yesterday, start of the season for BARC, of course. And back here as well, we have the number 4 Ben Stone, Teddy Wilson piloting this one. Which is your favourite? Red's my favourite colour. Doesn't it look good? Yes, it does. Let's get ourselves back up a little bit further forward, shall we? Let's listen to these cars firing up. This is just idling right now. If you're watching this, get the volume turned up right now. Have a little Not allowed to do that. Let's keep going forward, shall we? Let's go back to the front, shall we? Everybody getting themselves ready. The rain is coming down. It is going to be exciting, of course. The Britcar Prototype Cup almost about to get underway. Lights out at 9 o'clock this morning. What are we now? We are 10 minutes or so away. Not too long to go. Right, almost time. I'm going to hand back to Dave and take it away, Dave. It's going to be a cracking race, this one. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yes, thanks very much indeed, Ian. So a quick preview of the grid there for our first Britcar Prototype Cup race of the season, the first ever Britcar Prototype Cup event. We saw the Praga Cup run as a standalone championship last season, of course, but now we're going to see maybe 1 or 2 cars join them. Numbers will grow as the season goes on. It's very much a case of quality over quantity this weekend. Some very good drivers indeed in our field for our first 3 races of the season. 2 25-minute races to kick off the season. Second of them coming up at around 11:45 this morning, as long as things run to schedule. Those with 2 drivers, cars with 2 drivers, will have the drivers do 1 race each, the 2 25-minute sprints, and then they will join up for the pit stop race at the end of the programme, the 50-minute race. The grid for our first race reads as follows. It's the number 77 Mittel Cars machine on pole. The Praga R1, that will be driven in this race by Charles Hall. Scott Mittel will drive in race 2, the team boss. Alongside him will be the number 18 Idola Motorsports car, and that's the Venezuelan Rodolfo Gonzalez, who will drive in this race. Ruben Stanislas takes over for race 2. The second row, number 11, the University of Wolverhampton car. It's Jess Hawkins, one of Britain's leading female racing drivers, will drive in this race. Shane Kelly, who we saw in that car last season, takes over for the second race. Alongside Jess is number 14, which is Chris Bridle. He will take the first drive in the second Idola Motorsport car. Will Stowell will drive in race 2. And the third row, number 4, which is the TGM with private leads run Praga R1. Teddy Wilson drives in this race. Ben Stone will drive in race 2. And completing the entry, the number 3 DW Racing car. That's the only non-Praga we've got on this grid. That is a Radical SR3 RSX. John Davis, the driver in all 3 races. He's driving solo this weekend. So a 25-minute race coming up then on a very wet and slippery Silverstone. We saw the rain arrive towards the end of yesterday's programme. It arrived during the last couple of classic touring car racing club events, making the track decidedly slippery. It was the Prix 93 and 03 and the Super Touring cars that copped the worst of the rain shower yesterday afternoon. But it looks like the rain has set in for today, but then again, this is Silverstone. As we said yesterday, it does have its own microclimate, this circuit. It could be bright sunshine by the end of this 25-minute race. The course car just going round on an exploratory lap. We are on the full Grand Prix layout here at Silverstone this weekend. Just looking down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight there, you can see the puddles on the inside on the run into Abbey Curve past the Formula 1 pits. It's the other pit complex that's being used this weekend, though, up at the run between Woodcote and Copse, the heritage pits as they're known. We see the pit wall there. As Ian has mentioned, there will be 2 laps behind the safety car to start this race, just to allow the drivers to get used to the conditions. Qualifying was held yesterday and it was in the dry. It was a fairly close qualifying session, just looking at the times. Charles Hall and Scott Mittel were quickest, but only by 0.65 of a second over Rodolfo Gonzalez and Ruben Stanislaus. You may recognise Ruben Stanislaus from a programme aired on BBC television over the winter. He appeared in Born to Race, along with his fellow karting graduate Luis Apigi. They raced in the Adola Motorsport Praga last season at Donington Park and put in a pretty useful performance at the season finale. Of course, the Praga Cup won last year by Gordy Much and Jimmy Broadbent, but not on the grid for this opening season. Hopefully, we will see the team back later this year. They may be moving on to pastures new for the 2023 season. So grid sizes will grow as the season goes on with various new prototypes. We are hoping to have some LMP3 cars on the grid for later this season, the likes of the French-built Ligier and Norma LMP3s. We saw the LMP3 Cup a couple of years ago, of course. Very impressive machinery indeed. I would love to see some of those out with the Praga Cup cars. An interesting comparison between the two. Great to have Jess Hawkins on the grid as well. We've seen her in the British Touring Car Championship and also in TCR UK. She had a win in TCR UK at Alton Park at the beginning of 2022. She's also done a fair amount of stunt driving with the likes of Fast and the Furious Live. Even in James Bond films, we've seen Jess Hawkins as a stunt driver. She teams up with Shane Kelly, the former F3 Cup champion, who's been very successful over the last couple of years with the University of Wolverhampton car, the car run by their motorsport engineering students based in the West Midlands. Good university, that, Wolverhampton. I'm told it produces good motorsport commentators as well. Mentioned Ruben Stanislaus. We'll see him out in race 2. It's his teammate Rodolfo Gonzalez who takes the wheel for this one, and he is a very big name indeed to watch here. He began racing cars in the UK. He was born in Venezuela in South America and began his career in car racing while studying in the UK. And in 2013 was the test and reserve driver for the Marussia Formula 1 team. One of only a couple of Venezuelans to have appeared at the highest level of motorsport over the years. He's also appeared in IndyCar a few years back with the Dale Coyne racing team, contested 6 IndyCar races in his career. We've not seen him regularly on track for a few years. About 5 years ago we saw him in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. So he's a very versatile racer, is Rodolfo Gonzalez. And he'll start as one of the favourites here, but we'll see how he copes with the conditions. The Porsche Cayenne course car there, just doing an exploratory lap. Going through the Beckett's complex, that magnificent sequence of corners at the top end of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit before the cars head onto the Hanger Straight and down towards the fast sweep of Stowe Corner. Chris Bridle in the Adola Motorsport car. The Bridle twins not racing together at this round. Normally we see Chris and Ed Bridle sharing the number 14 car. They were number 84 last season. Chris began his career racing karts at Buckmore Park, one of Britain's top kart circuits down in Kent, just near Brands Hatch. And there is the safety car. Evelyn Buanek, the former BMW racer, at the wheel of the safety car this weekend. And Charles Hall it is who leads them out then, ready for the rolling starts. There's the Radical at the back of the field, the DW racing car of John Davis. Certainly stands out alongside the Pragas, doesn't it? And it looks like it's in a lookalike of the old John Player Special livery, that car. That's powered by a 1300cc Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle engine, the SR3 RSX model of the Radical. SR3 RSX, there he is at the back of the field. They'll try to keep up with the Pragas. The wet conditions should level things up a little here. Radical is 243 horsepower. The Pragas, at least 350 horsepower from their 2-litre turbocharged Renault engines, weighing just 643 kilograms. It should be a fairly evenly matched field. Morning to everybody tuning in on YouTube. Hello to Dave Hill, Tom Watts, Paul B. Morning from Derby. Paul Danino. Correct, Tom Watts. The two driver teams, each driver will do one of the 25-minute races and then share the 50-minute race. You're spot on there. Hi to Hasbox, who's watching from trackside, hopefully keeping dry. Hi to Alistair Cummings, watching in Wales. And Sam says, best place to spectate anyone? Well, you're in the best place to spectate right here on BARC TV. Evelyn Buanek at the wheel of the safety car, as you mentioned. She raced for many years in the Kumho Tyres BMW Championship, which will kick off its season in just a couple of weeks' time. We'll be covering them on BARC TV this year. Last saw her race about 10 years ago, Evelyn, at Cadwell Park. Good morning to Lewis Bassindale up in Newcastle. And hi to Liam Redford as well. Steve Tarrant watching from Dorset. It's good to see plenty of you tuning in on YouTube despite the time difference with the clocks moving forward. And our apologies if any of you were watching yesterday for a few technical problems with our live stream. Those fingers crossed have been ironed out for today. Yes, we did miss some of the last race yesterday, the Prix 66 and Prix 83 touring car race, due to a few technical problems with our stream, but we will bring you that during the lunch break later on. So it's awaiting the all clear. Waiting for the clock to roll round to 9 AM. It does so. And the safety car leads them off. So there will be 2 laps behind the safety car. It's Charles Hall, number 77, in the Mittel Cars machine in pole position. They were the championship runners-up last year, and they won the prize car, a brand new Praga R1. Because, of course, it was a factory Praga car that won the title. Charles Hall at the wheel in the green and black machine. He's raced single-seaters successfully over in the USA in the past, appeared in the Toyota Atlantic Championship a few years ago, was hoping to graduate to Indy Lights, effectively the rung on the ladder just below IndyCar racing, but sadly never did appear there. Came back to race in the UK. And Rodolfo Gonzalez, who made it to IndyCar with Dale Coyne Racing, starts alongside. That's a pretty impressive front row. Jess Hawkins on row 2. Former W Series competitor, has competed in the top level of touring cars in the UK. She's in the University of Wolverhampton car, the blue and white car. Gonzalez in the silver car with the Dayglow yellow stripes. Second row of the grid completed by Chris Bridle. And over to Will Stowell, the former European karting star for race 2. This should be a fairly close encounter. Teddy Wilson on row 3, former kart champion and now a racing instructor, making his Praga debut, his prototype cup debut, as the safety car heads them through the club complex. John Davis at the back in the Radical. If he finds some success here, hopefully it will encourage more Radical racers and similar cars to join this series. A whole variety of prototypes are eligible, and we will see grid sizes grow as the season goes on. Look how wet it is down there at Abbey Curve, just past the Formula 1 pits. They then head up to Farm and Village. There's the left-hander at Farm, the right at Village. A lot of standing water on the inside there as well. Driver's going to have to be very careful in the early laps of this 25-minute race. The left-hander at the Loop. That continues into Aintree on the exit, named after the former home of the British Grand Prix. Not just the Grand National, cars have raced at Aintree as well back in the 50s and 60s. Occasional sprint events are still held there. And then it's down the Wellington Straights, named because Wellington bombers flew from Silverstone in the Second World War. Past the BRDC, British Racing Drivers Club clubhouse, and then into the left-hander at Brooklands, named after Britain's first motor racing circuit down in Surrey. Then into the double right-hander at Luffield, up towards Woodcote Corner, and the end of the lap. There's the number 4 car of Teddy Wilson, the red machine. Certainly stands out in these damp conditions. John Davis in the Radical at the back, the John Player Special lookalike. It's the livery made so famous by Team Lotus in the 1970s in Formula 1. Now the countdown has started, the clock has started, 25 minutes. An additional lap behind the safety car. So as the safety car starts, the Ford Focus heads them into the right-hander at Copse Corner. Very easy to run wide there. Then it's up this little rise up to the left flick of Maggots and then into the Beckett's complex. Charles Hall leading them round. Pack should be unleashed next time by for the first ever Britcar Prototype Cup race. Superb sequence of bends here at Beckett's. The right, the left, the right, then into the left flick of Chapel Curve and onto the Hanger Straights. Just look at the spray. Visibility is certainly going to be an issue in the early laps. Not for Charles Hall if he can stay in front. I suspect we're going to see the car that gets the break at the start build up quite a lead at the start over the first lap or two. Down to Stowe Corner. Very daunting right-hander. And that's just in dry conditions. Absolutely treacherous. Look at the spray. Prototype Cup not really replacing the Praga Cup, as some have suggested. The Praga Cup running as a class within the Prototype Cup. It's nice to see a little more mixed grid. So we will see more cars come in. I know we've got 1 or 2 LMP3 cars waiting in the wings. It's a big year for prototype racing internationally, with the new hypercar rules in the World Endurance Championship attracting a lot of major manufacturers. Toyota, Ferrari, Porsche, Cadillac and more. Of course, this year is the centenary of the most famous race of them all, the Le Mans 24 Hours. Almost time to get underway then, with this safety car start. Who's going to be our first ever winner of a Britcar Prototype Cup race? Chris Bridle there in the white car behind Jess Hawkins, just weaving to keep the tyres warm. Ooh, getting a bit close there. Not to weave around too much, we don't want contact before the race has properly got underway. John Davis keeping up in the radical. Oh, and he spun it. Oh, using a bit too much. That shows you how treacherous it is. John Davis spins the radical before green flag racing has even got underway. He'll be playing catch up from there, as the safety car unleashes them. Up towards the start line they come. It's time to go racing here at Silverstone with the Britcar Prototype Cup. Red lights go out and we are underway. Down towards Copse Corner they go. And it is Charles Hall who's just about held his lead. Jess Hawkins moving to the inside. Everybody else lost in the spray. Rodolfo Gonzalez up there in second, the Venezuelan, as they tiptoe their way around Copse Corner. Look at this, you can't see anything. Except, well, the only exception is Charles Hall. He's out in front in the number 77 Mittel Cars entry. Jess Hawkins going through for second on the run into Beckett's Corner for the first time. Third place, it's Rodolfo Gonzalez. Those three have broken away slightly from fourth place. The number 4 car of Teddy Wilson. Chris Bridle dropping back into fifth position in the white number 14. John Davis, after his spin just before we went to full green racing, playing catch up in the radical. Down into the right-hander at Stowe Corner. Charles Hall that leads. Jess Hawkins in second. Gonzalez in third place. They're just tiptoeing their way around these great rooster tails of spray being thrown up behind the cars. Looks more like powerboat racing than prototype racing at the moment. Gonzalez at the inside into Club, and he goes through into second place on the brakes. Good move by Rodolfo Gonzalez. A little bit of a twitch there from Chris Bridle in fifth place. Hawkins fighting back. They're side by side out of Club Corner. John Davis trying to catch up in the radical. The rain could prove a leveller for him. The radical, as you mentioned, not as powerful as the Pragas. Up towards Abbey, you can hardly see them in there. Gonzalez has held second place in his battle with Jess Hawkins in the University of Wolverhampton car, but it is Charles Hall for Mittel Cars who leads the way. Founded by Charles's co-driver Scott Mittel, initially competed for a couple of other clubs in his first self-built prototype sports cars. Look at the handling there, understeering its way through the loop, then snapping to oversteer, handling like a hovercraft there as they come through the loop and into Aintree. So much skill being demanded here from these drivers. Hall leads Gonzalez, and somewhere in there is Jess Hawkins. There she is in the University of Wolverhampton car, chasing Gonzalez for Idola Motorsports. Through Brooklands they come. It'll be Charles Hall who leads across the line. Slightly a shortened race with the extra green flag lap. Wipers flailing as they head out of Woodcote Corner up towards the line. First three still breaking away very slightly. The lead gap just under 1.5 seconds. And then 1.8 seconds back to Hawkins in third. Wilson is fourth. Bridle fifth. Five Pragas covered by 8.5 seconds at the moment. Waiting for John Davis to come through. He has not shown us having crossed the line yet. I hope we haven't lost the radical early on. Whether he's had a spin somewhere, we've not seen. He comes across the line now. Yes, he's some 22 seconds down on the fifth place car of Bridle. So I reckon he must have had another moment somewhere at the back of the field, somewhere hidden in the spray. Down to Stowe Corner it is Charles Hall who still leads from Rodolfo Gonzalez in second place. Jess Hawkins up there in third, running brilliantly on her Prague Cup debut. There's the Radical coming through Beckett's. See the water at the front air dam on that car is pushing aside. This is going to be a struggle for John Davis, and of course he's in an open cockpit, so he's struggling perhaps more than most with the conditions. What's that crossing the road? Is that a fox? It is. Well, we've seen rabbits occasionally on the grass verges here at Silverstone, but I've never seen that before. Luckily, John Davis able to dodge the wildlife there. As the leaders head into the loop and to Aintree. Up towards Brooklands go the leaders once again to complete the second full race lap, if you like, of this race. Charles Hall continues to set the pace, twitching his way through Brooklands there, taking a slightly wider line. There's Rodolfo Gonzalez in second place. 2013, it's the test and reserve driver for the now defunct Marussia Formula One team. He's twitching about there as they come out of Brooklands. Drove in a few Friday free practice sessions, and he has competed on about, I think it was 3 Grand Prix weekends that the Venezuelan took part in. The gap about the same as they cross the line this time. Fastest lap of the race recorded by Charles Hall. 2:28.133. Now, how does that compare to qualifying in the dry yesterday? Yeah, they were under 2 minutes yesterday, so that shows you how treacherous it is. They're about 30 seconds down on their qualifying times. There's Hawkins in the background. She slides her way through Beckett's. Bridle has got through into 4th position further back. He's got ahead of Teddy Wilson. Still got our Fox playing around on the hanger straight. This could be dodgy. He needs to get out of the way there, especially as Rodolfo Gonzalez was thinking about a pass there. You do not want to be hitting wildlife at that speed, especially in these mainly carbon fibre constructed cars. There's John Davis, just coming round now to complete his second lap. Yes, the Radical with that distinct power disadvantage to the Praguers. I thought the rain might prove a bit of a leveller, but not the case, unfortunately, and John is a long way back, just keeping it on the island, getting some laps in. He will win his class, of course, the only non-Praga in the race. Charles Hall continues to lead, and if anything, Gonzalez, I think, has closed in slightly on this lap. See as they cross the line. Up towards Brooklands they go once again. Charles Hall, the ex-Toyota Atlantic racer, great season he had with Scott Mittel last year, leads Rodolfo Gonzalez. See what the gap is this time. We'll see what the gap is back to Jess Hawkins as well. Hall runs a little bit wide through Luffield, so does Gonzalez, looking for the best possible line in these conditions. You don't want to go through the standing water. Over the line go the two Pragas leading the pack, and the gap has come down a little because Gonzalez just on the fastest lap of the race, 2:25.793, so they're getting a little more used to these conditions now. We've still got 13 and a half or so minutes of this race to go. There'll be a short break from race action after this race for qualifying for the Britcar trophy, over 20 minutes. Well, Gonzalez a bit wide there. He kicks up a bit of mud coming through Beckett's. He got a wheel over the curb there. He saved it. He's still second. There's John Davis. He's keeping his Radical on the road. Radical recently announced they were moving to a new base at Donington Park this year. They've been based in Peterborough since the company was founded back in 1997 by racers Nick Hyde and Phil Abbott, moving to their new base at Donington soon. There is Teddy Wilson in the number 4. He's in 5th place. He's dropped back a bit from Chris Bridle. Now there's Bridle in the white car, like a ghost through the spray. Looks like our friend the Fox has vacated the circuit, thankfully. Here come your leaders down these Sir Lewis Hamilton straights. Wouldn't it be great to see Sir Lewis out in one of these Pragas? I know he was mentoring one of the drivers that we've got here today, Ruben Stanislaus, last season, and his running mate Lewis Apigi when they appeared at Donington. One car sounding a bit rough there in the background. We'll keep an ear to that. 2 leaders now going clear of Jess Hawkins in 3rd. Up towards Brooklands they go once again. Hopefully we'll see the circuit begin to dry out as the day goes on. Well, Gonzalez going very wide there into Brooklands, trying a different line. He's done the fastest lap of the race. He got the gap down to 1.255 seconds last time through. Let's see if he's any closer to Charles Hall this time. Charles Hall with the much more experience of the Praga. He and Chris Bridle, the most experienced men in these cars in this race. The gap has stayed about the same. Quickest to 2nd and 3rd sectors of the race from Gonzalez. Hawkins does her personal best lap with a 2:25.893. Here's Chris Bridle. Over the line he goes. Will Stowell will take over that car for race 2. It'll be Scott Mittel, the boss of Mittel Cars, who will drive the 77 in the 2nd race, and Gonzalez car will be handed over to the aforementioned Ruben Stanislaus. He's in there somewhere, Rodolfo Gonzalez. There he is. It's a pall of spray as they head down into Stowe Corner once again. Just over 10 minutes to go. Such a shame the rain has hit here on opening day for the Britcar Prototype Cup. Pragas have been racing since the first Praga R1 was built back in 2012. Their test driver, the Dutchman Danny van Dongen, was the first man to drive a Praga R1 in anger. Praga, the Czech Republic-based company with all manner of different automotive interests, everything from carts to lorries. Even aircraft in the past have been built by Praga. A UK base up in Cheshire. Radical, as we mentioned, based in Peterborough. John Davis still going towards the back. Go the leaders down to Brooklands once again, and is Gonzalez close this time again? He takes that wider line through Brooklands. Is it working for him? Well, Hall did the fastest lap of the race last time through to increase the gap slightly, and John Davis off again. He is struggling in that Radical. Oh, 540 degree spin there. 5.9 for artistic interpretation, I think. Now, can he get going again? I hope he hasn't stalled the engine because he's at Beckett's. The lead gap has come down meanwhile. Gonzalez just at a 2:24.746. He's got the gap down to just over 3/4 of a second. But if the Radical is still there, yes, the yellow flags will be out at Beckett's. And they'll have to maybe dodge John Davis in the Radical if he hasn't got going again. Yeah, it looks like he has moved off. Didn't see him there. There he is, coming down the Hanger Straight. So he's going to be lapped fairly shortly by Charles Hall and Gonzalez. There's our friend the Fox on the left, watching from a safe distance now. I hope he's bought a ticket. Round Stowe go the leaders. Less than a second in it last time through. There's Davis in the JDS liveried Radical, not JPS. Radical have run several one-make championships over the years. Radical Enduro and the Challenge, among other series, Pro Sport as well. Ideal stepping stone into sports car racing. If anything, the lead gap, I think, has increased slightly. As you can see, Gonzalez has dropped back a little. Now they've got backmarker traffic to deal with. John Davis, hopefully he'll stay out of the way of the leaders here. He's giving away over 100 horsepower to the Pragas. It is a Suzuki Superbike engine Radical, 1300cc as opposed to the 2-litre Renault turbocharged engines of the Praga R1s, and he has been lapped there by Charles Hall. Still Hawkins in third place. She's about 8.5 seconds off the two leaders now, and Gonzalez. Oh, the leader's gone wide at Luffield. He's off. Charles Hall trying to get going again. Gonzalez goes through into the lead. Now, what's happened there? Maybe he just hit some standing water into Luffield. Disaster for Charles Hall. He's down to second. And Rodolfo Gonzalez takes it up for Idola Motorsports. There's Hall in second. Now, how far behind is he? 6.3 seconds, so he's lost about 7 seconds there, and you can see him sliding about there. He's now going to start pushing to try and catch up. How long's left? Just over 6 minutes of this Britcar Prototype Cup race. As away goes Rodolfo Gonzalez in the lead. Hawkins still third. Now, could she catch Hall for second place here? They're well clear of Chris Bridle in fourth. He's about 15 seconds further back. Gonzalez now in the clear. There's Hall in second. And where's Hawkins? There she is, coming up to lap the Radical. Almost eerie, isn't it? Looking through the rain and the spray down the Hanger Straight there. The effect of these very bright headlights. There's the number 4. That's Teddy Wilson, and he's catching Chris Bridle. So we could have a battle developing for fourth place here. It took nearly 1.5 seconds out of him on the previous lap. Chris Bridle, the karting graduates. Likewise, Teddy Wilson, twitching about there through Stowe. So hard to get the power down. If anything, I would say, looking above the grandstands there, the light is improving slightly. So the 5 minutes left for Rodolfo Gonzalez, looking for a win on his Praga debut. He's raced everything over the years. Never did start a Grand Prix. Has done testing, he appeared in free practice. As well as his IndyCar appearances, he raced in Formula Acceleration 1, the short-lived series representing Venezuela. He's competed in GP2 for the Arden team, as well as Charles Hall runs wide again. He's trying a bit too hard, I think, to catch up there. Gonzalez, one appearance at Le Mans as well for the Murphy Prototypes team. Last race regularly in 2017 for the NASCAR, in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for Alex Caffey's team. The Italian 1980s and early 90s Formula One driver. Performed heroics in the BMS Delaras. Charles Hall also raced in America, as we mentioned. Never did make it up the IndyCar ladder, though, sadly. He did race in the Toyota Atlantic Championship. Effectively the third tier of American single-seater racing for many years. Used to be known as Formula Atlantic. There's the battle for fourth. They're separated by 1.36 seconds, Bridle and Wilson. Just a couple more laps to go now. Hall has done the fastest lap of the race, 2:23.552. He's got the gap down to 4 seconds now. Now, how much quicker was that? That was over 2 seconds quicker than Gonzalez, so it's going to be close between these two if Hall can catch back up. He doesn't want to push too hard, though, and risk making a mistake. Here's the fight for fourth. Bridle from Wilson. John Davis in the Radical has been lapped, as we've seen. Hopefully it'll be drier for the second drivers for each of these cars. Well, for each of the Pragas, because John Davis on his own. He'll drive in all 3 races. There go the leaders. Up towards Village. There's Gonzalez. There's Hall. We'll see if the gap is coming down this time around. And the doors come open on Charles Hall's car. Now, has that come open by itself, or is his windscreen steaming up and he's trying to clear it? I wonder. That is a problem sometimes. I remember many years ago Rickard Rydell at Brands Hatch having to pull out of the lead of a touring car race because he couldn't see where he was going in the Volvo. Maybe Charles Hall's having problems seeing and he's opened the door to try and let some air in and clear the windscreen a bit. Has he got the gap down? We're going into the final lap this time. The gap was 4 seconds. As Hall comes across the line, we'll see what it is down to. It's down to 2.8 seconds. So even if Hall pushes on here, I reckon he's just going to come up short. Look at the understeer there. As the car slides its way through, snaps to oversteer on the exits. Charles Hall is pushing here. He's taking some risks. Lost a bit of time there coming through cops. The car he's throwing that car around all over the place. He's just hanging on. No grip there at all. There you can see the back trying to come round on him coming out of Beckett's. Hawkins is still third. She's 6.3 seconds back. Did her personal best lap that time through, 2:25.24. Likewise Bridle, 2:25.439. Door still bubbling open on the 77. There's Davis in the Radical. Just keeping it going. No door problems for him because he hasn't got any doors. He's in an open cockpit. He must be absolutely drenched in there. Clock counting down as the leaders come along the Hamilton straight for the final time. It's looking good for Idola Motorsports and Rodolfo Gonzalez. Not sure a Venezuelan driver has ever won at Silverstone before. I have to check whether Pastor Maldonado won here in his GP2 days. I'm sure Johnny Cicotto has won in motorcycles in years gone by. Venezuela's greatest motorsport personality. So are we about to find another one, because Gonzalez down to Brooklands for the last time. There's Hall in second. He's not going to catch him. And the first ever Britcar prototype Cup race is going to be won by the number 18 Praga R1 of Idola Motorsports. Up over the line comes Rodolfo Gonzalez, wins at Silverstone. Charles Hall will come over in second, some 4.5 seconds down at flagfall. Third place will be Jess Hawkins in the University of Wolverhampton car. She's 5 seconds further back. Fourth place, fairly close together these two were for most of the way, is going to go to Chris Bridle in the number 14 for Idola Motorsports. And just behind him, 2.6 seconds back, Teddy Wilson in the number 4, the TGM with private Leeds car, TGM Tim Gray Motorsports. And here comes John Davis in the only non-Praga, the Radical SR3 RSX, the John Davis special. Couple of spins, but he's going to make it home. A soaking wet John Davis, no doubt. Didn't have the luxury of a covered cockpit. He comes up over the line, finishes a lap behind. But at least he'll get another chance in race 2. And then the pit stop race, of course, later on. Well, that concludes the first ever Britcar Prototype Cup race then. Congratulations, Rodolfo Gonzalez, completing 9 racing laps in a time of 25 minutes, 42.804 seconds. Finishing 4.588 seconds clear of Charles Hall in the Mittel Cars machine. He got the fastest lap of the race, Charles Hall, 2:23.552. Third place, representing the University of Wolverhampton, was Jess Hawkins. 9.6 seconds off the race winner, 5 seconds off Charles Hall. She did her best lap on the final lap of the race, 2:24.796. Best lap for Gonzalez was 2:24.453. Rodolfo Gonzalez adds another string to his very varied racing career. GP2, Formula 1 reserve driver, IndyCar driver, and much, much more besides that. And now he's a winner in the Prototype Cup. Charles Hall, a rather evil handling machine, as we saw. He was pushing hard to try and catch up. Has to settle for second place. Scott Mittel will take over that car for race 2. It'll be Ruben Stanislaus in the 18. There'll be a short break next up, because we have qualifying for the Britcar Trophy. The cars just about to make their way into Parc Ferme at the end of our first race of the day here at Silverstone. A very busy day it is indeed. And Ian Waterhouse will be down there to talk to a few of the drivers.
Yeah, welcome down everybody to a very happy Parc Ferme. As you can see, Rodolfo Gonzalez getting the first ever win in a Britcar Prototype Cup, and look at what it means for him as well. I'm sure I want to say a quick thank you to his team. We will hear from him as well. We've got Charles Hall over here and Jess Hawkins as well. Let's quickly grab him again. We spoke to you before the race, of course, and very difficult conditions, but you drew on all of that experience. Oh, that's nice to see, isn't it? And you made it count, didn't you? Capitalising on Charles running a bit wide there.
Yeah, I mean, he was really fast, and
you were catching him though. You were before he went off.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get really past him because there was so much spray. So every time I was getting close, I lost a lot of visibility. Like, you literally couldn't see anything at all. So I was trying to stay off the line to try and be close enough. But I knew I had a little bit more pace, but it wasn't quite enough just to get past him. So I thought, you know, I'm just going to stay close because he seemed to be quite on the edge and see if he made a mistake. But
and that's what happened, wasn't it? So it was just a case of finding your feet to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't driven this car before in the wet. I haven't raced in 8 years. So for me, it was just like, all right, I'm going to take it easy, turn 1. On the start, you know, he squeezed me a little bit. And I thought, you know, fair enough. I'll just tuck in behind him. And then I just sat there and just try and wait for a mistake. I knew if I could be close enough, I had half a chance.
That's how you do it, turn up, win a race, eh? Well done, congratulations. I just really want to quickly just grab Charles Hall as well. I know they've got to go up to the podium, but Charles, very quickly, you must be freezing because your door looked like it wedged open there. What happened?
I don't know what happened with the door. Yeah, that let a draft in. But no, I'm just saying, we had a really good car for the rain on Friday, really good. But I don't know if that's just me being a bit optimistic, but I went for a slightly stiffer setup thinking it's going to actually dry out over 25 minutes. So, you know,
got worse if anything, didn't it?
It did. But no, old laddie did well, because I wasn't really making any mistakes. I was winning myself, and then I just dropped it. It just didn't just hook in, and just one of those really annoying wandered off the track. So I kept going, got second, but no, he drove well because he beat me.
Well, you're back out in the car later. You were closing as well in the late stage as well. I think you needed in the podium. Well done, congratulations anyway. Podium celebrations about to go underway. I think Jess has gone actually. If we go back, we'll be able to see. Hello, Claire. We'll be able to see the drivers coming onto the podium. Didn't get a chance to speak to Jess there, but incredible stuff indeed. They are actually, they're just waiting behind the scenes. I do believe we're going to get straight on to qualifying actually for Britcar Trophy. So I'm going to hand back to Dave to take you through that.